A woman in Presidio, Texas, woke up one morning and knew how to speak Mandarin. She says she never studied it, never went to China, never lived anywhere but West Texas. She also woke up knowing the layout of an apartment in Houston she had never visited. The smell of her neighbor's cooking, the sound of a child laughing, a name she didn't recognize, but somehow knew it was important. The night before, she drove Highway 67. And if you believe the people who've reached out to me, she wasn't the first. She wasn't the last. Do the thing. Phone down. Headphones in. The brightness is low. Tonight has a full resolution. Not every detail can be proven, but every question this story raises gets an answer that fits the pattern. Stay with me. Welcome to Red State Horror. Real places, real roads, and stories people swear happened to them. Tonight we're in West Texas, Presidio County, Texas, on Highway 67, with the story named Someone Else's Life. By the end of this, you're going to look at memory in a way you probably never have before. We have divided the story into some simple parts. To feel the reality, let's go to the story. Chapter 1. The Road and the Town. Presidio County, Texas, is huge and quiet. Almost 4,000 square miles. Around 7,000 people. That's not a figure of speech. That's the kind of empty where you can drive for 40 minutes and not pass a single car. It sits on the Rio Grande, right on the border. The land is the Chihuahuan Desert. Flat, brown, sun-baked. Mountains on every horizon like they're holding up the sky. Presidio is the main town down there. A border crossing. A few thousand people. Summer heat makes you plan your day around survival. About 60 miles north is Marfa. Marfa, you've heard of. Art town. Minimalism. Tourists. Presidio is Marfa's tougher neighbor. More dust. More border. Less gallery. Between them is Highway 67. 60 miles of two-lane road through scrub and volcanic rock. In the daytime, it's beautiful. At night, it's darker than most people are used to. So dark some folks pull over just to stare at the stars. People have driven that road at night forever. But starting a few years ago, some drivers began reporting something specific. Not car trouble. No lights in the sky. Not a creature in the road. Something in their mind. They'd make the drive at night, go home, and go to sleep. And in the morning, they'd wake up with a memory that wasn't theirs. Not missing memory. Added memory. Like someone else's life got tucked into theirs overnight. The first public record I found wasn't a news story. It was a forum post. A trucker named Ray Castillo posted in October 2020. If that's his real name, I don't know. A lot of people use nicknames online. I'm telling you what the post said and what followed. Ray wrote that he ran routes between El Paso and Presidio. One night, he drove Highway 67 and slept at a motel in Presidio. In the morning, he said, he knew things he didn't know the day before. Directions through Houston. A specific apartment building. Which elevator button to press. A dead plant in a hallway. He wrote, I have been to Houston twice, and I didn't stay anywhere near that. He said he thought he was losing it. Then he wrote that a buddy on the same route had something similar happen. The post didn't blow up. A couple of replies said stress. Someone told him to see a doctor. Ray never posted about it again. But the thread stayed up. And over time, people found it, including someone who had a story of her own. If you want more stories like this, subscribe to Red State Horror. No long intro, no filler. Just the road and what's on it. Chapter 2. The woman WHO woke up, speaking Mandarin. She told me to call her Lucia Vega. She asked me not to use her real name. She has a kid, she has a job, and she doesn't want this following her around town. Lucia is in her 40s, born and raised in Presidio, works in an office job, has driven Highway 67 hundreds of times. On the night of March 15, 2022, she drove up to Marfa to pick up her daughter from a friend's house. Nothing unusual. Windows down, country station low. The desert night is cool and clear. She got home around 11:30, went to bed, and then she woke up around 6:15 and realized something was wrong. Not scary, wrong at first. Just impossible. She said her thoughts were in a different language. Not like she was hearing a voice, like her own inner voice had switched. She sat up in bed and tried to force English back into her head. But the words that came first felt automatic. She went to her kitchen, alone, and said a sentence out loud. Then she opened a translation app and spoke the same sentence into it. She told me the app identified it as Mandarin Chinese, and the translation said, "Don't forget to pick up Wei from school at 3. Lucia does not have a child named Wei. She had never even met anyone named Wei. She just Woke up with the sentence already built. She said the language faded fast. Over the next few days, her Mandarin slipped away like a dream. In a week, she could barely form a sentence. By a month, she couldn't do it at all. But other pieces didn't fade as quickly. Lucia told me she could close her eyes and walk through an apartment she'd never been in. A living room, a small kitchen on the left, a hallway with a crack in the plaster at shoulder height, a bedroom with an east-facing window and a blue curtain that lets in too much morning light. She said she knew the sound of a faucet, too. It makes a thin, high whine when you turn it on. She knew a routine she'd never lived. And the weirdest part was this. She didn't feel like she was imagining it. It felt like remembering. I asked her if she had ever tried to find the place. She looked at me for a long moment and said, "That's the problem." I didn't have to try. She said she woke up knowing the address. An address in Houston. I had a language I never learned, she told me, and a home I never visited, and a kid who wasn't mine, and it all felt like it belonged to me. Then she said something that stuck with me. By the time I understood how serious it was, most of it was already fading. 2 weeks after it happened, Lucia found Ray's old forum post. She replied to it years later. Thinking nobody would answer, Ray answered within an hour. They compared notes. Different memories, same shape. Wake up after a nighttime Highway 67 drive. No private details you should not know. Details that feel lived in. Lucia told me Ray's memories pointed to Houston, too. A different part of Houston than hers, but close enough to bother them. She stopped mid-sentence when she told me that. Like her mind didn't want to finish the thought. I finished it for her. You think you both got memories from the same neighborhood? She nodded once. Or the same person, she said. Chapter 3. What they all had in common. After Lucia replied to Ray, other people started surfacing. Not all at once. Not like a trend. More like a quiet roll call. A message here. A comment there. A private email. Someone saying, "I thought I was going crazy until I saw this." Over time, I collected 14 accounts that matched the same basic pattern. Here's the pattern, plain and simple. 1. They drove Highway 67 at night. 2. They went home and slept. 3. They woke up with a memory that didn't feel like theirs but did. And those memories had a certain quality. Not trivia. Not, "I know the capital of Mongolia." Not a fact you could pick up by accident. It was intimate stuff. How someone makes coffee. Which stair squeaks. What a kid's laugh sounds like from the next room. The smell of cooking oil in a hallway. The feeling of being late and trying not to panic. Life texture. And then I noticed something else. Most people assume the memory belonged to a total stranger. But when I asked, "Did you ever figure out who it belonged to?" Some of them said yes. And the ones who figured it out didn't trace it back to a random person. They traced it back to someone they were connected to. Not close. Not obvious. A former coworker from years ago. A second cousin. A neighbor from childhood. A friend of a friend you met one summer and never saw again. People at the outer edge of your life. The kind of person you don't think about for a decade until their name pops up somewhere. And you go, "Oh yeah, them." That's who the memories kept belonging to. One man I spoke to, Doug, told me his story started in 2019. He drove Highway 67 at night. Went home, slept, woke up with a woman's morning routine in his head. Not the big beats, not she's married or she has a dog. Small, specific stuff. The exact podcast. The exact order she does things. Where she sets her keys. Doug told me it bothered him so much. He tried to find her. He recognized just enough details to dig through social media and make a guess. And he was right. She was a woman named Carrie. Doug had worked with Carrie for 6 months in 2012. They weren't friends. They spoke maybe 4 times. He called her anyway. He said, "This is going to sound insane." Then he asked her about a detail from the routine. Doug told me there was silence on the line. Long silence. Then she said, "How do you know that?" Doug explained the drive. The sleep. Waking up with it. Carrie didn't scream. She didn't laugh. She said something else. She said that since that summer, she had felt off. Not sick, not confused, just slightly less inside her own life. Doug described it like this. She said it was like the color got turned down on her normal days. Like the days still happened, but they didn't fully land. And that's when Doug told me the thought that nobody wanted to say out loud. "I don't think it's a copy," he said. "I think it's a transfer." Meaning, if he got it, she lost it. Not her whole memory. Not her identity. Just the texture. The small details that make a life feel lived. I sat with that for a long time. Because Lucia told me something almost identical. Lucia eventually found the person connected to her memories too. A woman in Houston. A teacher. A mom. Lucia asked me not to use her real name either, so I'll call her Mei Lin. Mei Lin lived at the address Lucia woke up knowing. The apartment with the east window and the blue curtain. Mei Lin had a son named Wei, and when Lucia reached out, Mei Lin told her something that chilled me. She said the spring of 2022 had felt strange. Not dramatic, not like she was forgetting birthdays, but like she was watching her own days from half a step back. Burnout, she assumed. Stress. Being tired all the time. Until Lucia said the date. March 15th, the night Lucia drove Highway 67. Mei Lin didn't know what to call it, but she knew when it started. Chapter 4. What might be happening and what we can't prove. I'm going to be straight with you. I can't prove any of this in a lab. I don't have equipment. I don't have a university grant. I'm not a neurologist. What I have is a stack of accounts with the same shape, the same timing, and the same weird rule. Night drive, sleep, wake up with someone else's life. So I did what I always do. I called people who actually study parts of the puzzle and asked them what could even be possible. Not what's proven, what's plausible. And two themes kept coming up. 1. The ground under Highway 67 is unusual. 2. Sleep is when the change shows up. First, the geology. A geologist I spoke with told me there's a deep basin system out there. And in one stretch, the mineral mix is heavy with quartz. Quartz is piezoelectric, meaning, under pressure, it can generate an electric charge. That doesn't mean magic. It doesn't mean a lightning bolt under the asphalt. It means the ground can hold a low-level field that changes depending on conditions. The geologist also told me something else. In that desert, nighttime conditions can get weirdly stable. Dry air, low humidity, temperature inversions. And under the right conditions, a weak field can become more organized for short periods. Not strong, not enough to knock you out. Just coherent, more like a lane than a fog. He was careful with his words. He kept saying, in theory. But he did say this. If there's a place where a human body might pass through a consistent low-level field while moving at speed, it would be a road like that. That's all he would give me. And honestly, that was enough to keep digging. Second, the sleep piece. A neuroscientist I spoke with, also off-record, focused on one thing immediately. Timing. In every account, the driver didn't get the memories during the drive. They didn't pull over and suddenly speak Mandarin. They went to sleep, and the next morning, the new memory was there. She told me that sleep is when the brain sorts signals. Your brain doesn't just store memory. It edits it. It files it. It compresses it. It decides what stays. So here was her theory, in plain language. If the drive exposes your nervous system to unusual noise, and if that noise includes a signal your brain doesn't normally process, your brain might still try to file it later during sleep. Because your brain hates loose ends. It takes what came in during the day, and it tries to make sense of it. And if it can't tell where it came from, it might tag it as yours. That's the simplest version. Then I asked the obvious question. Okay, but where would the other signal come from? That road is empty at night. She said, empty on the surface isn't the same as empty. If there is a field traveling through the ground, it doesn't only touch the road. It reaches outward, and every human nervous system has electrical activity. All the time. Normally your brain filters almost all of it out. You're not a radio. You're a person. But if the filter is briefly lowered, and if conditions line up, you might pick up fragments. Not a clean message. Not a full movie. Fragments. And then sleep does what sleep does. It makes fragments feel like memory. Then I asked her the part that bothered me most. Why the outer edge connections? Why not total strangers? She didn't like that question. Not because it was rude, because it didn't have a clean answer. But she offered an idea. People who have shared space before, even briefly, it may be easier for your brain to recognize it as a pattern. Not spiritually, not destiny, pattern. Like how you can spot a familiar face in a crowd faster. Then you can spot a stranger. If the brain is going to misfile a fragment, it may misfile the ones that fit something it already knows. Someone you met, someone you worked with, someone you lived near. A weak connection, but a real one. Not close enough to remember daily, close enough to be a match. Last question. What about the people who lost something? She went quiet. Then she said something carefully. She said memory isn't just what you can name. It's also what makes you feel present. The small details that make your day feel like your day. If something disrupted that, even slightly, a person might not say, "I lost a memory." They might say, "I feel flat lately. I feel a step away. I feel like I'm watching myself live." Not dramatic, just enough to notice on a bad day. And she made one thing very clear. "This is a theory," she told me. "It's not a diagnosis. It's not proven science, but it fit the reports better than anything else I heard." And the next part of this story made it harder to brush off. If you're still here, hit like. It helps this reach the people who actually want these stories. Now let me tell you what Lucia did. Chapter 5. The memory Lucia gave back. Most people who told me their Highway 67 story did one of two things. They either tried to ignore it, or they tried to find the person. Lucia did both. She tried to ignore it until she couldn't. Then she tried to find Mei Lin. And when she did, Lucia did something nobody else had tried first. She tried to give it back. In April of 2023, Lucia flew to Houston, El Paso, Ahabi, rideshare across town. And then she stood in a parking lot staring at an apartment building. She had never seen it with her eyes. But she recognized it. That's the part that makes people's voices drop when they tell a story like this. She recognized it the way you recognize your own street. She texted Mei Lin. Mei Lin had agreed to meet her. Mostly, I think, because curiosity is stronger than fear. When the fear has no shape. Mei Lin opened the door. Lucia walked inside. And every detail was where it was supposed to be. The crack in the plaster. The blue curtain. The way the light leaned into the room. Mei Lin ran water for tea. The faucet made the thin whining sound Lucia had described. And there was a kid's backpack on a hook by the door. Ways. Lucia told me Mei Lin watched her take it all in. And something in Mei Lin's face changed. Like she could tell this wasn't a prank. Not really. Because you can't fake recognition like that. They sat at the kitchen table for 3 hours. And Lucia did something simple. She told Mei Lin everything. Not the big pieces. The small pieces. The coffee. The podcast. The neighbor upstairs is dropping something heavy every morning, around 7. The smell in the hallway. The little things. Lucia said she didn't try to perform it. She didn't try to convince her. She just said it, calmly, like reading off a list. And then something strange happened. The more Lucia said out loud, the less she could hold on to. Like the memory was leaving her through her own mouth. Box by box. Detail by detail. Until she couldn't remember what she had come there to say. And across the table, Mei Lin started crying. Not loud crying. Just tears. And Mei Lin said, "I remember that." Then she said, "I didn't know I lost it until you said it. And now I remember." Lucia told me that was the moment she believed it was real. Not the Mandarin. Not the address. The moment Mei Lin recognized her own life like it had been returned. After Lucia got home, she reached back out to the others she'd been talking to. The ones who had identified the source of their memory. She told them, "Try this. Say it out loud to them." 4 people did. And all 4 told her the same thing. The more they talked, more memory is drained out of them. And the person across from them felt something come back. Not a missing year, not a stolen identity, just the color of ordinary days. The feeling of being inside your own life again. Lucia told me the window seems limited. Months, not years. Because the memory fades. And if it fades before you return it, the other person may never get it back in a form they can grab. They just keep living a little less vivid than before. Not ruined. Just dimmed. Chapter 6. The question nobody asked. For a long time, everyone focused on the receiver. What did you wake up knowing? Who did it belong to? But there was a question nobody asked out loud. If the driver can receive memory from someone in their network, does someone in that network receive memory from the driver? Does the road take? And does it also send? So I went back through every account and asked a different question. After your drive, did anyone from your past reach out to you acting strange? Not did they feel depressed? Strange in a specific way. Confused. Disoriented. Talking about a place they'd never been. Describing something they shouldn't know. 6 of the 14 said yes. And the messages they showed me all had the same flavor. Old friends reaching out of nowhere. A roommate from college. A neighbor from years ago. People they hadn't spoken to in forever. And those people said versions of the same thing. I keep seeing this road when I close my eyes. I keep dreaming about a night drive through a desert. I can feel the steering wheel. I can see the stars like someone turned the lights off in the world. One woman told a driver she could smell dust and cold air. and she didn't know why. Another person said they could hear a song on the radio that they were sure they'd never heard. They weren't describing Houston apartments. They were describing Highway 67, the driver's memory of the drive itself. Like the road doesn't only pull memory in one direction. It connects two people and lets something pass between them. Both ways. I asked the neuroscientist about that. And she said something simple. If it's a channel, there's no reason it would be one way. Signal doesn't care who's asking for it. If two systems are linked, even briefly, and something opens the gate, something can move. And that messed with me more than the Mandarin did. Because it means this. Every time someone drives that road at night and wakes up holding the texture of someone else's life, somewhere else, someone who used to know them, is waking up with a memory of a road they never drove. A dark line through West Texas, mountains sitting on the horizon, stars like static across the sky. A memory with no place to go. A memory that feels personal. But it isn't theirs. What this road seems to be. Here's what I can say. Without pretending it's proven, Highway 67 runs through a part of West Texas with unusual geology. Some people who drive it at night report a specific kind of mental spillover. That shows up after sleep. They wake up with fragments of somebody else's daily life. And the somebody else is usually not a total stranger. It's someone at the edge of their personal history. A weak connection. A name they'd almost forgotten. In several cases, when the receiver tracked the person down, the other person described feeling slightly dimmed. Starting around the same time. And in a handful of cases, people in the driver's past reported dreaming about the road itself, like the memory of the drive had leaked outward. If you want one sentence, one clean idea, this is it. Highway 67 doesn't just take you from Presidio to Marfa. It seems to connect you to the people you've been close to before, even if you barely remember them now. And it borrows small pieces of life between you. Not forever. Just long enough to change the way your days feel. Unless you return it. Unless you find the person and speak it back into place. And here's the part one can't stop thinking about. Every single story I heard pulled from the outer edge of a life. Not your best friend. Not your spouse. Not your mother. A coworker from a decade ago. A neighbor you haven't seen since you were 12. A second cousin you met once. People you drift away from until they're basically a ghost in your contact list. And the road found them anyway. Out of everyone in the world, it found the faint connections. The almost forgotten. I don't know if that's beautiful or cruel. But I know what it implies. It implies people are walking around right now who feel slightly outside their own life. And don't know why. And somewhere out there, someone they used to know carried a piece of their day for a while. And then it faded. And the window closed, and nobody ever knew what happened. One last detail. I did reach back out through the forum and found Ray Castillo again. He didn't want to talk on the phone. He only wrote a short message. He said he still drives that route. He said he does not drive Highway 67 at night anymore, unless he has no choice. And he said this, "People think I'm scared of the road. I'm not. I'm scared of waking up with something I can't give back." Epilogue. Get home before dark. Lucia and Mei Lin still talk sometimes. Not close friends. Just connected, in a way neither of them asked for. Lucia told me Mei Lin once asked her, "Would you drive it again?" Lucia said she didn't know, because part of her thinks, what if the next time the road pulls a memory from someone who actually needs to be found? Someone you lost track of for a reason. What if the road is doing something like pointing? And part of her thinks that is a dangerous way to think about a road. Like you're turning it into a tool. And tools like that always ask for payment. I drove Highway 67 after I finished reporting this. In the daytime, the desert was wide and quiet. The mountains are blue at the edges. A hawk hangs over the scrub without moving. It was one of the most beautiful drives I've ever done. I kept the windows down, and I made sure I was home before dark. Highway 67, Presidio County, Texas. A road that, according to the people who wrote to me, can reach into the edges of your life and bring something back with you. And somewhere out there tonight, someone who used to know you might be dreaming of a road they never drove. Dark, straight, full of stars. A memory they can't place. That's Red State Horror. Drop someone else's life in the comments. Just those 3 words. And if you've ever driven Highway 67 at night and woke up feeling off, tell me what happened. Subscribe if you want the next story. Drive safe. Get home before dark.